All right, happy to be joined by the radio play-by-play voice of your Portland Trail Blazers, none other than Mr. Brian Wheeler. Wheels, we are thrilled that you are back behind the microphone. A lot of people reaching out on Twitter asking, how's Wheels doing? Give us an update. How are you feeling, and what's the latest down there in Phoenix?
Well, thanks, fellas. We had a nice flight in, which was to be expected. No bad weather to contend with. 70 degrees, I think, during the day today in Phoenix, and another 70 expected tomorrow. So at least we have some nice weather right before Thanksgiving, as you would expect this time of year in Arizona. But yeah, slowly feeling better. It's it's something where I wish things would move along a little faster. Patience is not exactly my best attribute, but I'm trying to maintain that and at least just try to get the incremental improvements that have been showcasing themselves every day, and hope that we put enough of those together and get back to 100% here before too long.
Following doctor's orders. Holton has a question, though. He wanted to know something you had asked yesterday when they said, we're going to have Wheels on. You said, what was it? Do you remember?
No, help me.
Oh, no. You said, I want to know, this is your first game that you had missed in 16-plus years.
Right.
So,
I got it.
Yeah.
Will,
so here it is.
Will, so I wanted to know, when you were watching the game, first missed game in 16 years, right? When you were watching the game, were you calling the game?
Oh yeah, in fact, you can ask the captain. I mean, I went in and watched all 4 games of the trip with Rich and with Jay Allen,
right,
in the captain's studio, and he was laughing after a while because I would blurt out things that I would have said had I actually been on the air. So we had a few boom shakalakas, a few bank papows, a few alliterations after a hot timeout by the other team, and so yeah, it was definitely difficult to not. I don't know if I could have done the watching without at least expressing what I would have said had I still had the chance to call those games, and that was frustrating too. I mean, 4 great games, and the fact I wasn't a part of it. So believe me, when I came back for the game last Friday against Chicago, I think I compared it to Game 7 against the Lakers in 2000. I'm not sure there was any game since then that I wanted the Blazers to win more, because the last thing I wanted to be, I mean, we know superstitions are a big part of sports, and the last thing I wanted to be was, have that be a Blazer loss and somebody analyze it and say, now what was different about this game than the previous, the previous wins that we had? Oh, that guy came back, So I didn't want that to happen. So I was very relieved that they've won the last couple and then been able to tack on another one and at least have a nice little adding on to the winning streak. So at least I feel like I didn't ruin anything.
Will, one more question about being out and back in. I mean, we're such creatures of habits. We do things, we work on skill sets, and we get into routines. And that's why I wanted to know if you called the game when you were watching the game, because I thought the answer would be yes. Mm-hmm. But haven't had a chance to step away from it for a couple of games and back to it. Has anything in your perspective about the profession you're in changed, or do you have any increased value off?
Yeah, I think the frustrating thing for me was I thought if I ever missed a game, it would be because I had laryngitis, or maybe it was bedridden with the flu, or death in the family, and nothing like that happened. So for me, it was a rather unceremonious way to miss a game. I mean, my voice was fine. I could see, I could hear, I could write, I could do all the things that were essential to calling a game, and so that's why it was a difficult decision. I mean, had those been 4 home games, I would have done them all. It was only the fact that it was a lengthy road trip. We were going pretty far away, and I made the call. Nobody made the call for me. I mean, I just kind of thought that maybe, and I don't always make the sensible decision about things. So for me to actually say that, maybe it would make some sense to, just lay back and get a couple of other medical opinions about what's going on and some advice, and maybe lay low would be the right thing to do. And I think I'm probably further along in recovery than I would have been had I taken the trip. And so I think it was a little easier to manage things being back home, but it was it was definitely tough to miss those games, and if nothing else, not that I ever really need to appreciate the great job that I have and have had for all these years, but I think you come to miss it, and when there's a game on the schedule and you're used to being there and then you aren't for a week, I think you definitely feel out of place, that you're not where you should be, and so it was fun to get back at it, and it's just been great that the team has been playing as well as they have.
Yes, and Blazers radio play-by-play man Brian Wheeler joining us here on Trailblazers Courtside. You've seen a lot of highs and lows during your career here with the Trailblazers. How impressive is this streak that they are on right now? Is it different maybe than in years past that you've kind of witnessed?
Well, like my first two seasons when the Blazers got to the Western Conference Finals both years, I think those teams were expected to be very good before the year even started, expected to be conference title contenders, and so it wasn't necessarily a surprise that they had the seasons that they did. I think before the season began, we all felt pretty good about the moves that Neil O'Shea made in the offseason. We felt pretty good about what we saw in training camp and in the preseason, but you're never always sure how much is going to transfer over to the regular season. Then you lay a big-time egg on opening night in Phoenix, and you're starting to think, wow, did any of that mean anything? So you're trying not to think that think negatively just off of one game. So the winning streak, I think, came out of nowhere from the standpoint of you felt good, but I don't know that anybody could have said you're going to win 13 out of your first 15 games. So and I think a lot of the wins in this streak have been games that I don't think they would have won last year, and I think it's showing a great growth of this team. And I'm sure that the more they get wins, the more confident they're getting. So, I know some naysayers want to pick apart the schedule and the strength of it and who they're beating and if they're beating teams at full strength or whatever it might be. All I know is this team played a lot of under 500 teams last season and didn't beat them. So the fact that they're winning games and now beating some teams with good records and winning on the road, to me, that's a sign that you're showing that you can potentially be a very good team. And I think all these wins, they're gonna mean something. I mean, wins in March and April, everybody talks about winning down the stretch, but these wins in October and November are going to mean something too. So I think it's just giving the Blazers more and more confidence with each passing day, and that's been a very, very fun thing to see.
Wilson, you talk a little bit about the win over New York, because I thought with Mo Williams being out and the rotation being changed, if you will, it was changed dramatically. I mean, there was a time when there were 5 reserves on the floor at one time, but the effort, the energy, and the execution stayed at a high level. Can you talk a little bit about what you think that means for this team?
Yeah, as you guys know, I mean, if we had put 5 bench guys on the court last season, that was asking for trouble. And so but you almost don't fear it if it happens, this season. And I think the fact that the guys that have been added, Mo Williams, Earl Watson, Darrell Wright, the 3 main guys to be added as bench guys in the off season. These guys not only are capable of coming in and playing when you need them to, but I think they're very, very good locker room guys, and I think every team needs that, especially a team that's trying to learn how to win a little bit. They've come from winning atmospheres. They aren't afraid to speak up when that occasion warrants, and I think they bring the Blazers a little bravado, a little swagger, and I think we haven't had a lot of that, and I think that was evident in the game at Golden State on Saturday, and during that little scrum, I think you saw guys having each other's backs, and I'll tell you, we talked to LaMarcus after the game at Golden State, and I've never heard him happier. I mean, he just feels like he's on a team, or he's never been on a team where he's been more wanted, more appreciated. He said, or Watson came in for those 5 minutes and said, look, we're not doing any pick and roll. Just get down there in the block. We're throwing it to you every time. I mean, and I think he now really understands that, this is a situation where everybody on this team wants him to do well. They all have his back, and I think it's bringing out the best in him. It's bringing out the best in everybody. And so even shorthanded a little bit last night, and I had a similar feeling before the game last night that I used to have with some of those other great Blazer teams. And I'm not saying this team will, achieve championship status this year, but there were a lot of games in the past where you'd go into it and you just had a feeling the Blazers were going to win, and it was just going to be a matter of how much. And I really thought, even without Mo Williams and even with having to shift the rotation around, I just thought the Blazers were going to win the game last night, and I liked the fact that when it was over, Wesley Matthews, now we're grading the quality of wins. I mean, he said, "Hey, when we get a team down by double digits in our building, we need to find a way to bury that team." So I like the fact that they want even more, and the slogan, which I think is becoming fast, the slogan for the season, "Let's get greedy." I think in a good way, that's what this team continues to try to do. They're trying to stay hungry, and I think that's a very, very good sign.
As they go for 12 in a row tomorrow down in Phoenix, play-by-play voice of the Trailblazers, Brian Wheeler, joining us right now. On Twitter, we always want people to, reach out to us and be interactive, so we've asked them, obviously, as you know, using the hashtag TV Courtside, and Hunter wants to know, hey, will C.J. McCollum have an impact on the team when he returns? And have you seen him in practice, Wheels, and how has he looked as far as, trying to get back that foot injury of his?
Well, obviously, they've been careful about how they're bringing him along, but when he was limited to still having a brace on, he'd sit in a chair at the free throw line and go to various points around around the circle near the basket, and he would just in a chair be flicking the ball and hitting jump shots without actually being able to use his legs to do it. So this guy's and I think we forget about that, and I'm sure the team purposely is not putting any great expectations on what's going to happen, when he's going to come back, what's going to happen when he does come back, because everything's going very well right now. But I think he could come back at a time when you might need a nice little dose of some energy, some enthusiasm, and some talent, and I think he's going to provide all of that. Had he not gotten hurt, I think he certainly would have been a part of the rotation to some degree, and I think there's still an opportunity with a lot of the season left for him to, with the way things are going, there's no need to rush him back, and I know they won't, and so I think the feeling is that when he comes back, he can be, good as he was before the injury and be in a position to still help this team in his rookie season.
3 of the 4 guys that are in that rotation right now are new, basically, to the team. You had mentioned Jarrell Wright, Mo Williams, and Thomas Robinson being that. Joel Freeland, the other part of the rotation. Someone on Twitter also, Marlene, wanted to know, what has happened to Victor Claver? I see him dressed in a suit behind the bench. And that, there are guys that were, Victor started how many games last year? A lot of those were late in the season when the Trailblazers had lost 13 in a row. But Victor's long-term, if you were to kind of grade him out and see where he's at, is he potentially part of the rotation down the line for Coach Stotts?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think he's definitely gotten lost in the shuffle here a little bit. Obviously, there was a Will Barton sighting last night with, the injury or the absence of Mo Williams. And, I think coaches always like to say, hey, it's a long season, and there'll be an opportunity for people to step up. I think that's certainly what's being said about Myers Leonard, that, he's going to have another opportunity to show what he can do. You have injuries, unfortunately, that creep into things. I mean, just look in the last week how much the fortunes of the Bulls and the Grizzlies, changed with injuries to key players like Derrick Rose and Marc Gasol. So you hope you don't have a key injury, but I think this Blazers team is better suited to handle any absences than they certainly were last year, and maybe better than they have been in a few years. So there's still an opportunity. I think those guys, it's important for them to stay ready and stay patient, and it's not easy, especially when you're young, and especially when you remember that you did play a lot last season. But it's a new year, obviously, and they're going to have to earn new opportunities. Right now, obviously, Terry's got a very good rotation, and Thomas Robinson also in that rotation. So he's got a pretty good mix that he likes right now. So it's probably going to take somebody either faltering a little bit with their production, or getting hurt, or getting suspended, for somebody else to have a chance. But if that chance comes up, hopefully those guys are ready to seize the opportunity.
Brian Wheeler, voice of the Trailblazers, thank you so much for the time. I'll bet you did not think we were going to be asking you a Victor Claver question tonight.
Hey, when I'm on with you guys, I'm ready to spray to all fields, whatever's necessary. So I'm ready for anything.
Armed and ready, as always. Wheels, thank you so much, and let's go make it 12 in a row tomorrow, huh?
I like it, guys. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. All right, we'll catch up with Wheels again, tomorrow night?